You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K26. It's myself, Mo Moonty, alongside me as always, the legendary coach Brendan Sir. And today we have a very, very special guest. You guys might know him for his time coaching in the NBA, but a few older basketball fans might know him as the Ham Slamwich or Duncan Darvin. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
Coach Darvin Ham, thank you for joining the show.
Man, thank you guys so much for having me.
It's an honor to have you here. I know you and Coach Sir go way back. Let's start with a little bit of your journey through basketball, because a lot of people don't know that you were one of the first guys to actually tear down a backboard, hence the nicknames I mentioned at the start of the show, back when you were playing in the NCAA. Let's talk about your background into basketball. What inspired you? Who inspired you as you began your journey as a player, going on to have a 12-year career in the NBA?
Well, it's just growing up in Michigan. At heart, my first sport I ever participated in was football. And Michigan, is blessed because we have both a rich football history and a basketball history. So football was my first love in terms of sports. And, as I got older throughout high school, I hit a growth spurt where I went from like 5'9" to 6'5" in 2 years at Saginaw High School. And I had never played organized basketball. I always grew up playing at the parks and the little city leagues and church leagues and whatnot. And so in those leagues, a lot of the players who were playing for, the elementary schools, the junior highs, the high schools, what's called middle school now in America, but back then it was junior high, and could always hold my own against those guys. So just going into my senior year, a friend of mine, he said, man, you out here killing it on the court, bro. You should, your last year of high school, you should go give it a shot. And Coach Marshall Thomas, he actually gave me the opportunity as what would be considered a walk-on, basically, like in a collegiate term. But he gave me opportunity to play at Saginaw High School, which, again, had a rich basketball history within itself. And so played that 1 year. I come from a military background in terms of my family. My father, two of my uncles were all Air Force veterans, and my mom's brother was military police, with the Army all during that Vietnam time. And so I was hell bent on going to the Air Force. And before I did that, my father stopped me. He was like, yo, you should give college a try. And, again, and not having grown up playing basketball my whole life, the options were limited. But Coach Marshall Thomas had a friend named Brad Franz, who had recruited Lou Dawkins, a guy that I went to high school with, that ended up going to Tulsa playing for Tubby Smith at Tulsa. And Brad was one of his assistants at the time. And he had just gotten a job at Otero Junior College in La Junta, Colorado. And so did that opportunity, Coach came and said, I got an opportunity for you to go play JUCO if you want to keep going with this basketball thing. So put the military route on hold and went and gave it a shot, and ended up, playing 1 year there, becoming a JUCO All-American, set out the next year, signed with Texas Tech, and went on and played 3 years, started all 90 games in my collegiate career at Texas Tech under Coach James Dickey, was recruited by another legend, Doc Sadler, who's at the University of Kansas now. And, ultimately made it to the tournament my last year there, season of 95, 96. And that game against North Carolina happened. And, look up, had a good little NCAA run. And the next game got eliminated in the Sweet 16 by Allen Iverson and Georgetown Hoyas. And that's, going into that summer, just trying to get an opportunity to keep it going. And had some offers to come to, some rookie free agent camps pre-draft, and went to Miami, had some dealings with Dallas and the Houston Rockets. And, and then draft came and went, didn't get drafted, but that didn't, it didn't deter me. Kept it going, and God rest his dead, a beautiful man, was a longtime scout and talent evaluator named Brenton Johnson, BJ Johnson, who worked for the Rockets for almost a quarter of a century, finding talent and whatnot in the scouting department, and got an opportunity to go play summer league with the Houston Rockets. And while there at the Salt Lake City Review, Vegas, Salt Lake was what Vegas is now. back then. But back then the media with social media
From
and
a
all.
basketball
Yeah,
perspective, not
yeah.
Yeah,
from
right,
Vegas,
right,
Vegas.
right. Yeah, no, we're not going to confuse Salt Lake City with Vegas as a city. But from a basketball standpoint, the summer league was huge in Salt Lake at that time. We're talking summer '96, and Bernie Bickerstaff, discovered me there and gave me opportunity to come try out for the team in Denver, signed me to a non-guaranteed rookie contract, and I was blessed enough to make the team, and it just went from there. And so I thank God every day, man. Just things kept. If you work hard, people, people always say you got to be lucky. And well, in our business, luck happens when opportunity meets preparation. And by that, I was working hard every day in the gym, and it just so happened that Bernie saw me, and I was confused for a bit because I was there playing with Houston. I had started the first 3 games, and we had to play 6 games at that summer league review, and the next couple games I didn't play at all, so I thought I did something wrong. And one of the coaches came to me and say, "No, you didn't do anything wrong. Denver is gonna, they want to just kind of put you on ice because they want to bring you to camp." And talking about being excited, signed my first contract, albeit a non-guaranteed one, but I felt like they let me in the door, I'm gonna get my seat at the table, and so signed my first contract at my grandmother's
Wow.
house with my oldest son, Darvin Ham Jr. As a little kid, I still have the pictures, and went to Denver, and it was some injuries, and I played well and had a great preseason, and I was able to make the team, and so thus my NBA career began. And it was 5 players that year. That '96 draft is one of the legendary drafts in the history of the NBA. You're talking about Allen Iverson, Kobe, Stephon Marbury, Ray Allen,
Mm.
Steve Nash, Peja Stojakovic, a lot of guys, man, in that draft. And so myself, Eric Strickland, Chucky Atkins, Adrian Griffin, and the big fish, Ben Wallace, we were all the 5 guys who were non-drafted that ended up making the NBA team and went on to play more than 5 years as being undrafted rookies. So it's a legendary draft all across the board. But again, I thank God every day, man. I was able to just lock in, focus, and take advantage of the
So
opportunity.
Mo, Darvin and I are dear friends, but as he was talking, I said, "Oh shit, Darvin." I started coaching 3 months before the son of a bitch was born, and at the University of Detroit with Dick Vitale, and my number one
Yes,
recruit that I went after the whole year was a kid by the name of Tony Smith, a great player from Saginaw High School who went to
yes,
UNLV.
from
And I
Saginaw
would
High School.
drive 2 or 3 times a week up to Saginaw. He's a baby. He's a baby at the
Yep,
time. And then of course,
yep.
full circle when I go to the Pistons and win championships in 89, 90 and stuff. I mean, to think about that these, like a high school kid, but Michiganders have an incredible bond, and Saginaw is one of our special, special cities. When I think about it, you're one of the most unique, gifted coaches in the league, in my opinion, in that you really you understand
Thank you.
the most important thing, people. Does that come from your great mom, who was
Yeah,
the mayor, the first woman mayor of Saginaw, Michigan? She had to have incredible people skills. Where did those come from for Darvin Ham?
yeah. They you guys froze up a little bit, but they definitely, man. I was raised in a God-fearing home. My grandparents, Evelina Jones, Wilson Jones, my grandmother Minnie Ham, and obviously my mom and dad, Wilmer Jones Ham, who unfortunately
Yeah.
just passed away on September 8th. This a couple months ago. But she lived a great life. She impacted people. She dedicated her life to service. She was an educator. Really was active in the community. Would always open up her home, her kitchen to people to come by and grab a meal. Would always be doing clothing drives, turkey giveaways at Thanksgiving, and we come from a we were lower middle class at the time. I lived on the
Yep.
east side of Saginaw. 1530 Emily Street between Remington and Holland behind Genesee, and a neighborhood that went from being a lovely place to
Yeah.
crime ridden, really, and with the the crack era coming into play. But my mom, my dad was always sturdy, worked General Motors, retiree. Unfortunately, died in a car wreck in '92, my freshman year of college, while I was at junior college in Colorado. But those two people, my dad, his work ethic, getting up every morning, working double shifts to make sure we had everything we needed. My mom, again, her service to the educational system in Saginaw Public Schools, and as well as her service to her church, Tabernacle Baptist Church. My older brother, younger sister, we all grew up in the church, and just instilled those principles in us, and always told us, man, it takes all different type of people to make a world. So be slow to judge, and really embrace the people who look like you, whether they look like you or not. We all, and when they say look like you, it wasn't about color, it wasn't about gender, it was about 2 ears, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 10 toes, 10 feet, 10 toes, 10 fingers.
10 feet,
And
crazy.
so it was just, and they were practical human beings. They could sit and have conversations with a CEO of a company, all the way down to someone that was homeless. And so that stuck with me. And it doesn't cost anything to be respectful to others, and exhibit good manners, and a thank you, no thank you, hey, how you doing today, hey, have a great day, I'm sorry, thank you, again, you're welcome. All of that goes into being, just a highly functioning human being. Education is definitely important and all of that, but sometimes it's the practical practices of humanity that separate people. And we, as Coach can attest to, we see that all the time. We seen talented players come and go, but the ones that are able to stick and to be able to have a place in our business beyond the playing court are the ones that people gravitate to, and they usually gravitate to them because they're respectful people and with high character. So that was instilled in me early in my household, and consistently.
That's a beautiful message, Coach. The state of Michigan has been such a big part of your life. You were on the Detroit Pistons team that won a championship in 2004. A big topic amongst, NBA fans and media. A few of your former teammates have come out and given their opinions. But given how much the NBA has changed now, how do you think your championship squad with the '04 Pistons would fare in the current NBA? Because you guys were a hard-nosed defensive team. Now it's a lot of high-powered offensive stuff. How do you see the difference in the game and how you guys would fare now?
Well, one thing people don't give us credit for, we were highly skilled and athletic. I mean, you look across the board at that team, you had Chauncey, Rip, Tayshaun, Rasheed, Ben Wallace, and off the bench, you had Lindsey Hunter, Mike James, Corliss Williamson, Darvin Ham, Mehmet Okur, Eldon Campbell. We could throw different lineups at you for whatever, Darko. We had different lineups that we can throw at you for anything you presented to us. And so I think wholeheartedly we would have fared well. We would definitely have a couple of championships in this era, because one thing about it, we were passionate about the defensive side of things. We would have figured out whatever the new rule changes, and you can't do this, you can't do that. And we were synchronized in the sense where we all said, look, we made a decision in the locker room. We're all going to foul. They can't keep calling fouls. So we're all going to put our hands on our opponent. We're going to be tough. We're going to hit people, whether it's setting screens, whether it's boxing out, whether it's taking fouls and not giving up layups, making people earn what they had to get on the offensive side against our defense. And offensively, we had 5, 6, 7 guys that can go for 30 on any given night. And so I think we wholeheartedly could have held our own, not just held our own, we could have been elite in this era.
I don't know who would ever coach a style of play like that, physical style that would hurt people and knock them over and do things like that.
Larry Brown.
he must.
And Brendan Sir.
I think.
And Darvin Ham.
I think we left some of our coaching books in that locker room, and Dumars passed them out to you guys. Joe was the quiet assassin, man.
Absolutely.
He never said shit, and all he did is just lock you down and guard you, man. He's such an incredible leader by example.
And would
Yes,
give you 30. People, you talk about a guy that was the
yes.
finals MVP. So,
Facts.
Joe
No,
wasn't nothing to be played with, man. He was good he was great on both sides of the ball. And we had a bunch of guys that can give you things on both sides of the ball on that team. So yeah, I don't, man, it is some great, the
yep.
game is in a great place. It's a great basketball being played, but at the end of the day, like that team, the way we defended, like, no, it'd have been, people would have been hard pressed. We held, I think it was 7 straight games holding NBA players, an NBA team under 70 points. And we had actually had one game in that midst of where we had a game we played, I think it was Melo's rookie year when he was in Denver, that no one on the
Oh my
team
God.
scored in double figures.
That's
You
insane.
can go pull that. I think it was March, sometime in March of 2004. No one on their team scored in double figures. Denver that year won a top 3 high scoring teams in the league.
That's crazy.
And so, we were like that.
That's crazy.
We were like that.
As a coach, you try and instill these tough principles into the teams that you're in charge of. How are you finding the transition to coaching with the player's background and now being in those locker rooms? Do you still see that same mentality of being hard-nosed and tough that you did when you were a player yourself, or do you think the mentality of an NBA player has changed over time?
That's a great question, Mo, because the climate of our culture has changed. Our society has changed. In my day, growing up I played from 96 to 2005 in the NBA. Played in Spain, played in the Philippines, played in Puerto Rico. But now, it's so many different elements that go into these players. Well, you have to be able to adjust. Different techniques and methods that worked when I was coming up in, the early 90s to the mid 2000s. Some of them can be, implemented, but you have to really be aware of the individual player that you're coaching and how that individual fits into the overall group. And by that, I mean, we never had to deal with social media. We never had to deal with, constant round the clock coverage of the scrutiny of you as an individual player, also your team. And, then you put that with the type of money that's being paid out, the money that's involved now, the financial structure of the league, that's what it's grown to. And so my sons, they really helped me be a better coach by, me trying to understand by raising them that their era of life, let alone their era of basketball. So I think just being a good listener, getting straight to the point, simplifying things, making it about we and not me, us and not I, making them understand that they're a part of a group and it's not tennis or golf or boxing. You got different guys that that you're gonna be held accountable of contributing to, and not just to your own stat line. How you have star players and you have players who star in their roles, and everybody. If you're going out there, you're diving on the floor, you're taking charges, and maybe your numbers doesn't look that great. It's going to be someone on the internet, authorized or not, with these phones now. Everyone is a journalist, and so how can you handle someone saying you suck? You guys won the game, you contributed. You may have not scored 20 points or 10 for that matter. You may not have gotten 20 assists or 10 assists or 20 rebounds, 10 rebounds, whatever, what have you. But the impact that you made pushed the needle for you guys to be successful. Can you live with that and not, the individual adulation that comes in a lot of these instances with the star player? A lot of the role guys who are key guys on your team, it gets overlooked. I'm looking at the Celtics logo on your shirt. Peyton Pritchard is not going to get the same adulation as a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown, but he's comfortable with his role. He's a star in his role. I can make an argument that certain segments of that championship run they had, they don't get there without Peyton's contributions,
Takes everyone on the
or
squad.
Al Horford for that matter. The role players that are contributing, the Derek Whites, the unheralded guys who don't come in and just consistent at doing their job. You have people out there that just think everyone's supposed to score 30, everyone's supposed to just be a star, when in actuality, the smallest contributions make the biggest impact. So just getting our players, today's player, to understand that. And you see that in the two teams that were just in the finals this past year, Oklahoma City, Indiana. They had role players all over the place. They were actual authentic teams. And that's why they found themselves in that position to be successful.
Darvin, you're one of the few coaches in the world that has ever coached literally some of the top 10 players ever to play in the game of all time. Guys like Kobe. I think Giannis is in that class.
Absolutely.
You've won championships. You've played with guys that are among those, but you also, when you have guys, Dame Lillard last year, what makes it for a coach? What do you have to possess to be elite and being able to coach great players? Because they're more demanding than just a normal role player. Let's say, my belief.
I think it comes down to not always wanting to be right, but just wanting to get it right, if that makes sense. A lot of people will stand on an argument and be on the wrong side of it, but the pride and ego won't allow them to relent and submit to the overall formula that it's going to take to have success. And one thing that's common, the common denominator in all of those guys, they've embraced the responsibility to be great through their work ethic, through their film study, through understanding the details of the game. Kobe's preparation, LeBron's preparation, the guys I played with on the Pistons team, Ben Wallace. I watched Ben Wallace control a whole game, and I think he only probably scored 5 points. But, he had 22 rebounds. He'd have 7 assists. He'd have 8 blocks. He'd have 6 steals, 4 charges taken. Like, he just controlled the whole game without really, impacting the scoreboard, specifically. But he did impact the scoreboard by all of the extra possessions he got us, all the extra possessions he got us from steals, from offensive rebounds, all the shots he denied with his blocks. So just understanding the details and understanding that we're here to work together so we all can be great. And you see that there's a reason why certain guys individually were off the charts, but they never won. And, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. But your mentality as a great player, the ones I've been around and have been willing to share, is like being an individual great player comes with a lot of responsibility. Those great players that go on to put banners up, to have those rings, they understand that they need help. I.e. Michael Jordan, he'll tell you himself, he only got great. He was very good, but he got great when his team got great. And so him understanding, a lot of times everyone talks about that one clip with him and Steve Kerr, him telling Steve Kerr in the huddle, they're double teaming me, be ready, I'm coming to you. And he said, I got you. I got you. And so that right there, you have the greatest player on the planet, arguably the greatest player of all time, in some instances, not arguably.
Ain't no arguments over here, brother.
Yeah, giving himself up to the team. I'm not saying, okay, I don't care. They can send one extra defender, 2 extra defenders. I'm going to make this shot. No, I'm going to use my teammates. I'm going to make the right play. I'm not going to make the play that's right for me. I'm going to make the right play make the play that's right for we. And so to me, all of the great players I've been around that have, not only been great within themselves, but have been able to do great things for their organizations, for their teams. Again, put banners up, make history. They've always embraced the fact that they need good pieces around them, and they've respected those pieces.
Speaking of great talent, you've been a great coach in the NBA yourself. I mentioned a few of your nicknames from when you were a player, but you have a nickname as a coach, Mr. NBA Cup. What is your secret to never losing in the NBA Cup? Because I have been dying to know.
Well, gamble. If you're going to say the word gamble on what you know. I know basketball. And so in that regard, what I mean by that is I know the preparation it takes. I know what you got to have, the pieces you got to have to be successful in that regard. Not just hearsay or what the roster looks like or whatever. And by the way, I don't gamble. I may play a little blackjack here or there, but outside of that, just focusing on the job at hand. And it's been a delight, man. I think that cup is one of the best things that the NBA has ever thought of because it raises the competitive level of, what we do, what would be just a ho hum yawning stretch of the season. You get into December and January, and Coach can attest to this. Those are what we call the dog
Right.
days of the season. So you infuse that, opportunity to not only go, they putting banners up for that too and get that trophy, but a nice big fat check that comes along with it, then intrigues the players to go out there and compete their asses off, man. And I think it's good for the game. And you see some of those games when that court is different, the play is at a different level, and it's closest thing you can get to playoff basketball in the first third of the season, first third or 2/3 of the season. So I think it's been a great thing for our league, and I'm just blessed that right time, right place, right team. I saw LeBron eyes lit up, just his eyes lit up just to be able to be the first at doing something of that magnitude. You can, from here on out, people say this year this team won the cup, that team won the cup. I've been blessed to be a part of the teams that won the first two, but to be able to say you were the first to do something, because that cup is not going anywhere. It's going to be here for years to come, and so it's both a blessing and an honor to be able to be a part of it.
The first banner raised in the NBA Cup was in LA, so they can never
Yes,
take it
indeed.
away from you. I wanted to ask you this, which is maybe a kind of tougher subject, but I wanted to get your thoughts because you mentioned social media and players blocking out the noise. But as a coach, I wanted to know how much of that noise do you hear? Because your time with the Lakers, you won the NBA Cup, you went to the Western Conference Finals as a 7 seed. For a lot of the coaches in the world, that's a hugely successful run given the roster you had at hand, so on and so forth. But obviously, being in LA, they have different expectations to 28 of the other teams. Do you think that by the time your time in Los Angeles ended with the Lakers, you were somewhat of a scapegoat for that team? Because that's how some people view it from the outside. And I feel, just being online and being in the media, you got a lot of unfair criticism for perhaps the way the roster was constructed, some of the performances of the players, because a coach can only do so much at the end of the day. So how do you feel about the way that you departed from the Lakers?
Well, I've been around this business a long time, and I appreciate first and foremost, it was the Los Angeles Lakers that gave me my first opportunity via Mike Brown to be an assistant coach in this league. At that time, I think Jimmy Buss was the governor of the team, and Dr. Buss was still alive at that point. But Jimmy was doing the day-to-day stuff. And Mitch Kupchak, and I got an opportunity to be there, coach 2 years with Kobe and those guys, Pau Gasol, Steve Nash, Metta World Peace, just great play, Dwight Howard, a bunch of great players, Steve Blake, like just Derek, just a bunch of good guys when we first came initially into that. Coming off a lockout summer in 2011, just felt both blessed and honored. And then fast forward years later to have that same organization give me my first start as a head coach. I'm forever grateful and thankful for the Buss family and even Rob Pelinka, man, just choosing me to try to navigate through that tough stretch that they were going to. That said, again, I'm in the facts, man, not feelings. And my time there, we did a lot of cleaning up. The roster was imbalanced. It was a lot that was going on with between our star players, and just trying to weed through that, figure all that out. And we got to a place where we were able to make a deal, that really spearheaded our run to the Western Conference Finals that year. And I thank all of those guys for playing hard, putting it on the line for me. Again, that's the brightest light on stage in all the sports, let alone just the NBA. And so I thought I navigated it well. I had a principle where I never shitted on my players. I always try to protect my players and the media. Probably wasn't the case in our film sessions, but in the international media, I always try to keep it solid and stay on message. Being competitive, being together, being accountable to one another, and it translated. They went when I got hired. They were 33 and 49, and I ended up, we ended up getting 10 plus wins from the previous season, and ended the season 43 and 39. Went from being 13th, 14th in the West that year to finally getting a play-in spot and securing a spot by beating a young, up-and-coming, hungry Minnesota team, Anthony Edwards and company. And being able to push through Memphis and beating the defending champs in Golden State and all those Hall of Famers, Steph, Draymond, Clay, all those guys they had over there, and run into a buzzsaw in Denver who had the player playing the best at the highest level at that
Listen.
time, and still to this day. And Nikola Jokic. So I have no ill will, no regrets. I just wish I had time to see the program come to full fruition, but I thought we laid great groundwork to get them back. They're always going to be the most popular team, but I felt like my staff and we got them back to being legitimate championship contenders. And that's all you can ask for as a coach. And my granny used to say something like, whatever you do in life, whatever job you take on, just make sure you leave the place better than you found it. And I felt like I was able to do that in LA.
The highest compliment I can call anyone that's in coaching, I once told Pat Riley, I said, you're going to be a lifer," when he was coaching the Lakers. And he said, "I'm not going to be like you and Chuck. I'm out of here in a few years." He's 80 plus years old and he's still rolling, man. Right. And
He's still
you, my friend, are
involved.
going to be a lifer because of your incredible passion, but your incredible competence and credibility, but most importantly, your ability to connect with young people. So when you become a head coach next, which will be very soon, you keep learning. That's what I love about you, Darvin. You just keep every experience, you keep getting better. What have you learned about the way the NBA is now that you now will bring to your next head coaching job?
I just think the time and the patience, just keeping everybody on the same page, and like the togetherness, forcing that will. I inherited some players that had become accustomed to doing things the way they were used to doing them individually, but really making the team being really uh, dead set on making the team understand the importance
Mhm.
of togetherness. It's a lot of stuff we do. Once and you know this, coach, you get started with this NBA season, we see each other more than we see our own families. And so the more you can do inside the box and also outside the box, it may be a day where guys thinking you about to have a kick-ass practice and you take them to go play golf or go to Top Golf or go play flag football. And we used to do that a lot. And I shout out Mike Budenholzer, one of the best basketball minds I've ever been around, one of the best coaches I've ever been around. Got the opportunity to work under him for 9 years, be his lead assistant for 6. He would always do things like that. We always had team dinners. We always went and had team golf outings, team flag football, team softball, uh, just to build that camaraderie, that togetherness, that bonding that you need, and really be clear, the clarity of people understanding their roles, and tell them it's okay. Again, coming from a General Motors family, the guys that the guys that work on the lights, the tail lights and the headlights is just as important as the guys
Yes.
that work on the engine. The
Mhm.
car is running, but the car you have to be able to see where you're going. The
Yeah.
windshield has to be intact. The side windows, the rear view windows, like the seats, all of that goes into making a perfect automobile. And so just making guys understand the clarity of how everyone fits into the equation has become more crystal clear to me. And Doc has this saying that you have to, and I think Pop used to say, get over yourself, but Doc has a saying like, give yourself up to the team. You have to give yourself up to the team. Give yourself up for the team. And
Yeah.
it's not a statement that's more true if you're really trying to be successful and furthermore win a championship and make history. Anybody, and one thing I always tell my players, anybody can make money, and money is a big part of our business. That's not lost on me, guys. nowadays have the ability to earn enough money to take care of their family for generations to come. But making history is special too. You know, whether you're here on earth, hopefully you live very long, healthy lives. But if you're not, hey, be able to, for a team or organization to bring your family in and point up to the sky within the arena and look at a banner or lay out your dedication and your history and your contributions to making a situation special, that trickles down to your family. And so all of that to me is where I start with again, it's competitiveness, togetherness, and accountability. And I start there with these young players and trying to connect and learn from them and not shun them for thinking a different way than I thought 30 years ago, where the world's not the same as it was 30 years ago. So understanding that first and foremost, it breaks the ice for you being able to get on the same page and connect
Love
to do something special.
I love that. I have one more question. You know, you talk about camaraderie and teamwork and all of these things that go into the locker room. And oftentimes the media is trying to cast aspersions between teams and players and disrupt what's going on. I remember a while ago when Russell Westbrook left the Lakers,
Mm.
ESPN put out a thing saying he was like a vampire sucking the life out of the locker room. And I thought, who better to ask than the head coach who was in charge, who can actually give clarity on a situation where media has tried to derail a player's career because they didn't like how he fitted with a certain team. What was it like having Russ in that locker room with that group? And, you know, is it true what ESPN and those guys were saying, or can we clear the air here?
Nah, Russ is one of the most professional guys I've ever been around. He keeps himself in shape. That's why he's playing. I think this is his 18th season at the position he plays at. He keeps himself, you know, at a high level in terms of his conditioning and everything. He constantly works on his craft. All of his teammates, if you ask anywhere, wherever he's played, his teammates in every locker room always have nothing but the utmost respect for him and love him. The thing that, as a coach, you know, we're constantly trying to see how we can extract the best possible results out of our group. And a lot of times, once as a coach, once you walk out of that locker room, you don't have control over how those individual players within that locker room mesh. And the day we live in now, you know, everyone is not so much trying to, we used to say they're just trying to sell newspapers. Where now everybody's trying to get clicks and
Right.
views. And unfortunately, they don't have to wait till the next morning to see what was said. They can get right on their phone, their device, and send out whatever, be it credible or not. And so again, as we mentioned earlier in this interview, like that's a difficult thing to manage, the whole social media aspect. So someone can just pull something, you know, out of the air and throw it out there to the world, and it gains steam because everyone sees it. They don't know if it's true, where it's coming from. One of the most heinous, evil terms in our business now is sources. Inside sources say. Like, how do you get that? There's no that you know those. If it starts, if what's being reported starts with that, it should be flushed down the
Great.
toilet immediately, because those inside sources say articles or posts or X feeds or Instagram feeds. That's the most demeaning and divisive element to our business, and especially as a coach. And you got guys that you know that the hand-to-hand combat, as I like to say, can come and sit and talk to you face to face. That element is kind of gone. You know, I've had players that ask you, "Okay, man, my door's always open. You talk to me." No, I'm good, coach. I'm good, coach. And then on my way home from the gym, I get 6 paragraph text message from that same player. And so they're programmed, they're wired different. But in terms of Russ, man, you know, it was a difficult situation because to get a player like that, you pretty much have to gut your team. And that's essentially what happened. In order to get Russ on the Lakers, they had to part ways with Alex Caruso. They had to part ways with Contavious Caldwell Pope, Kyle Kuzma, a lot of other players they weren't able to get because the money wasn't there, because now you have 3 essentially supermax players
Right.
on your roster. And, you know, and then now you got to go after lower level players who, God bless, they're capable players, but to be elite, to win a championship in our league, you have to be elite and have an elite group. And a lot of times the financial constrictions won't allow you to do so. So, and in the game, the different skill sets have to match up. And so, I was the one, I raised my hand that decided that he should come off the bench and just to balance out our team. And because I know the defensive schemes of things, Bron requires the basketball. Anthony Davis required the basketball. Russell Westbrook being on the court, you got three guys now who are dominant on-ball players. And so I knew in order for our team to have any type of balance, to have any type of success, we were going to have to balance out our approach. And so him coming off the bench, and, for us, it worked out. People went from, it was unfortunate, man, classless, just people booing him and trying to blame him. But as he began to make his impact off the bench, people started cheering for him, cheering when he came in the game. And I can't tell you the amount of times he came in and changed the whole energy from negative to positive of what was happening within an individual game. So, I have no ill will with Russ. I wish him nothing but the best. I spent time with him once I got that job. He was at my press conference. And, I love him, what he stands for, great family. And hopefully one day we'll be able to sit down again and just really chop it up man to man. But he's in Sacramento now. My son is there. He treats my son with the utmost respect. They have a great crew over there: Scott Perry, B.J. Armstrong, Doug, all those guys, Bobby Jackson. They have Coach Mike Woodson, and Dennis Schroeder is over there, another guy who I got a deep history with. I love their crew over there and what they're trying to do in terms of turning that thing around. But Russ, again, one of the classiest guys, first ballot Hall of Famers. One guy that's done things in our league that probably won't be duplicated for a long time.
Darvin, I'll tell you what, you're amazing, and I just can't thank you enough.
As you said about sources, over here we don't do sources say, we go straight to the source. That's why it's an absolute honor having you on this show to talk basketball with us. You're welcome back anytime. It would be an honor to keep chopping it up with you, because I do have a few more questions, but I know you're running low on time, so we'll have to let you run here. And I just want to say best of luck for the rest of the season with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Thank you.
Giannis in MVP form. You've got Ryan Rollins. You've got AJ Green. These guys are popping out and showing out. So I hope everything goes smoothly for you. I look forward to seeing you in Vegas for the NBA Cup Final, where no doubt you'll be back again winning another championship.
That's all.
Coach,
if we go back this time, I'm asking for a casino to hell with a check.
I love it.
If we three-peat, I need a Ham Slam casino.
If you three-peat, they need to name it the Darvin Ham NBA.
How about that?
I'm telling you right now.
For sure. Well, hey, man, I can't thank you enough, Mo. It's a pleasure to see you, meet you, and be interviewed by you. And Coach, you know how I feel about you, man. I have nothing but love and respect for what you've done as a coach and the way so many people you've touched and made their lives better within this game, both on and off the court. And hey, man, I'm consider me a family member of the show, man. Whenever you need me, we'll make the time and we'll make it happen, man. I appreciate you guys. I have nothing but love and respect for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Listen, gang, I need you all to subscribe right now, because you see the caliber of guests we're bringing. We just had a current assistant coach in the NBA. The episode before, we had an ESPN insider, former 20-year executive. Before that, we had one of the greatest players of all time, Isaiah Thomas. Before that, we had current NBA player Larry Nance Jr. You don't know who's going to pop up on the Hoop Genius podcast. The only way to be in the know is to follow along on social media and subscribe to the podcast. We're bringing you this podcast for the love of the game. The only thing we ask in return is please do subscribe, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're on a Spotify or Apple or podcasting service, please leave a 5-star review. It would really help us in the podcast charts and the algorithms. That would mean a lot. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. And until next time, get buckets.